Hey guys, Hikari here, and man oh man, this chapter of My Hero Academia was very heavy and very sad, and honestly, I think Horikoshi is trying to get us to believe that Bakugo is actually deceased, and honestly, it really isn't looking too good for him in this chapter, and I don't know how Horikoshi could reverse what he's kind of done with us believing that Bakugo has passed away, but from what we see in this chapter, it does seem like this might be the end of Bakugo. The chapter actually starts off with Best Jeanist basically kind of going over with what I'm assuming is something that possibly Bakugo said in the manga, and he's basically saying that, you know, we're going to go 4-0, nobody's going to pass away during this fight, and we're going to be able to get out of this basically squeaky clean, scot-free, and we're going to settle this, you know, and we're not going to settle for anything less. And we see that even Monoma saying, you know, this can't be real, this can't be happening right now, and we see Bakugo on the floor again. Things don't look good for him, and Best Jeanist is basically telling him that you can't go and die like this, and it's just very sad. We see Best Jeanist saying that he has no pulse and his heart is actually ripped to shreds, so this isn't good at all. And we even see Mirio reacting to it, being with like a very sad look on his face, and he's saying, you know, oh my god, like, you know, he wasn't really able to stop them, and you just see everybody's kind of regretful of it, and the only person somewhat celebrating in this situation is of course Shigaraki, all for one, you know, that mix. He's celebrating, he's saying, you know, this is good, he's gone, and this is, you know, the last time. As per usual, he's also bragging, saying that, oh, you know, it was kind of bound to happen, you sending a little kid out there and having him shoulder the burden of all the people there, and, you know, he's just basically rubbing it in, doing what he does best. Shigaraki then asks them who wants to be another welcome present for Izuku, and we see that it's actually Mirko that comes and runs at him with reckless abandon, and we see that she doesn't even really care about herself right now. And interestingly enough, her thoughts in her mind right now are the fact that she wasn't fast enough in stopping Shigaraki in the other incident that happened, so it kind of puts into perspective how she probably feels very bad about not being able to stop him at that time. And, you know, she's just thinking that if she was just a little bit faster, if she was just there a second earlier, that none of this would be happening right now. And we have to really consider the situation from her perspective, and the fact that she's probably trying to redeem herself and she just isn't able to redeem herself from what she feels is probably her fault of Shigaraki even having come back in this fashion. Shigaraki then calls her out by name, saying that it's not really your fault, and that at the time there was a bunch of other heroes that were around, so that you didn't really drop the ball yourself in that situation. But then he speaks on the fact that a lot of heroes started to desert, in that they decided to kind of launch this operation without really knowing 100% that they'd be able to really come out victorious, and he just starts to rub that in on them. And I think it's just very crazy how much of a trash talker he is during this entire fight. He has not stopped talking once throughout this entire thing, but I guess that's what happens when you have Shigaraki kind of mixed in with All for One. We actually then cut away from the fight of Shigaraki and all the other people, and we cut back to Todoroki and Ida, and we see that we all thought that Dabi was down, but it seems like he's sort of revived himself, and we see in the panel that he's actually burning some of the other members of Endeavor's crew, and we see them all saying, you know, Shoto, run, get out of here. And Dabi tells him that he actually copied his move as a sort of last-ditch effort, and we see that he literally has like that kind of equilibrium fire thing that Todoroki had going from in the past couple chapters. It was a while ago, but we see that he's literally copied the same exact move, and he's using it to fight against them now. And we see in the panel that comes up that he's literally like flesh and bone, like there is no like actual skin on his body. It's like exposed bones on his knuckles and just a bunch of charred flesh. And we see that he really is a fanatic for Endeavor. We see that his admiration, I guess this twisted admiration of Endeavor, is so much that he's literally able to be a charred body of just bone and muscle, and he's still moving just to try and destroy Todoroki. And it's just very crazy how deep his obsession with Endeavor gets, that he's become this. We see that Todoroki even states the fact that, you know, he has incredible battle sense and he honed his quirk all by himself, so the fact that he was able to kind of just copy this move, like just by seeing it, does make a lot of sense in this situation. It's at this point that Dabi actually calls out to Skeptic, and Skeptic assumes that he's kind of doing this to ask him where Endeavor is. So I'm guessing Dabi really is doing all of this just for the chance at meeting with Endeavor, maybe talking to him or trying to take him out. So he's doing all of this just off of the sheer willpower of wanting to see Endeavor, and that's just crazy to me. Shigaraki then tells them that they shouldn't really give the villains time to muster up their forces, and that Midoriya was actually right trying to go and take the fight to them before they were able to kind of congregate and get all of their forces together. So kind of just think that Midoriya wasn't really wrong for going on that villain hunt that he was going on before he kind of regrouped with his classmates, and that maybe things would have been different if they kind of would have taken that initiative and also did the same thing, kind of went after the villains instead of kind of waiting, mustering their forces, but also letting the heroes, or the villains I mean, do the same thing. We cut over to Skeptic, and I don't know if he's literally up in that satellite or if he's kind of like in a base and he's kind of bouncing off of the satellite that we see in the panel, but we see that he's trying to hack into the heroes' mainframe. He's trying to hack into their systems, and he's basically just going over the fact that he's going to kind of do everything he can to aid Tomura Shigaraki, aid him, and he's going to do everything he can from his reign where he has complete freedom, you know, in the cyberspace, and he's going to let that kind of give way for Shigaraki to have free reign on the ground. So he's basically saying that they're going to be working. He's trying to make sure that his freedom kind of leads to Shigaraki being free to do whatever he wants on the ground floor. We get a little bit more dialogue of him saying that he's going to kind of erase everything that kind of made way for the old generation. He's saying that he's going to get rid of all of that to make way for this new generation where people are going to be able to use their quirks freely and nobody's going to be kind of tied down by laws, and it's kind of going to be anarchy. If we're being honest, we know this, that the world that they're envisioning is just straight chaos, anarchy, and I don't know why they kind of want this, but they definitely want this to kind of play out in this type of world to be what they're going to currently be living in. And this is the part of the chapter that I actually don't really like. As a big Endeavor fan, I don't like the fact that they're kind of showing his family like this leading up into the final panel of the chapter, but we see that they're in sort of a base, or I'm assuming it's like a shelter where everybody's staying at, and one of the teachers is basically telling the kids, like, you know, to be quiet, you know, stay put, and that they're going to be okay. And one of the kids actually starts saying that there's no way Todoroki, Bakugo, and the others are going to lose this battle, and it's just Horikoshi being a bad person, honestly, trying to do this to us, making us get very sad over the fact that Bakugo might actually have been deceased and that things are not looking good for the Todoroki family right now. And I really don't want Endeavor to pass away. I really want him to go back home to his family and for everything to be fine. And I also really hope that Bakugo isn't actually deceased, but we don't even really know at this point. And these panels lead into the final panel of the chapter where we see that All For One has seemingly fully resurrected his old body, and we see that his face is actually there. Like, it's not the potato kind of looking face that he had from before. It's actually a full-on face, and we see that his eyes are there, and some of his body has actually come back, and I can just assume that this is just him kind of rewinding his body back to his prime self, the version of him that was fighting against All Might. And maybe he's even better than he was back then. Maybe he's stronger than he was in the time period where he was actually fighting against All Might and was kind of going toe-to-toe with them. So this is not good at all for the heroes. This is probably the last thing that they wanted to happen. A fully awakened All For One, along with Shigaraki already running rampant, doing all of that crazy stuff against a bunch of the heroes. This is like the worst case scenario, and I don't even know how the heroes are going to kind of bounce back from this. And he even says it in his ending dialogue that heroes are the protectors and that villains are the invaders, and that they're going to kind of do whatever they want right now. They're going to invade and they're going to test the heroes and see if they can actually protect what they say they want to protect. And that is the end of the chapter, and I gotta say, this is a very good chapter. It was definitely a 10 out of 10 for me, just because of that Endeavor or All For One ending right there, where we see that he's fully resurrected, and the implications of this are just crazy. So many things can happen now that he's fully resurrected back to his old self, and the level of strength that he's going to display is most likely going to be very, very scary for the heroes. But I'm definitely here for the ride, and I do want to see what happens at the end of all of this. Definitely let me know what you guys thought of the chapter in the comments. Also, like the video if you liked it, and subscribe, as it really does help me out. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to keep putting out My Hero Academia content and a lot of different videos for these series, but definitely be looking out for all of those. And if you like My Hero, Black Clover, and different series like that, definitely consider giving the channel a sub. Also, follow my socials, follow my TikTok and my Twitter, as I will be posting a lot of my shorter videos on my TikTok along with the YouTube channel. Thank you for watching, everyone, and I'm out. Peace.